and assured Ugandans that things are moving on well. Let's have the details.
The Rwandair flight from Nairobi overshot the runway as it was landing at 5:31 a.m. as a result of bad weather on Wednesday. All passengers and flight crew deplaned safely with no reported injuries. According to Uganda Civil Aviation Authority spokesperson Vian Luja, he says the cause of the incident is still under investigation.
At around 5:31 a.m., Rwandair's flight, an aircraft Sierra J9, was landing at Entebbe International Airport. Unfortunately, the aircraft veered off the runway on landing. It was at a time when the weather was not the best, but the actual cause of the incident will be fully investigated, and we shall get a comprehensive report that will be able to tell the exact cause of the incident. As of now, it is difficult to speculate on what may have caused it.
This is not the first time a plane skidded off the runway. On January 2019, an Ethiopian Airlines carrying 139 people skidded off the runway when it landed at 12:41 a.m., as he explains.
Of this nature happen world over. This is not the first of its nature. Aircraft can veer off the runway, and this has happened in many countries and at many airports across the world. Specifically at Entebbe, the last time we had a similar incident was in January 2019, when an Ethiopian Airlines aircraft overshot the runway. This is a different incident from this one. This particular one veered off, the other one overshot the runway.
Because work was disrupted, airplane companies were inconvenienced mostly in terms of money, which Vian says it's hard to predict how much was lost. However, an alternative route was considered for lighter planes.
To evaluate the financial impact at this point, it requires that a team sits down and looks at exactly what may have been impacted in terms of the flights that were supposed to have taken place and did not take place. But at an individual basis, of course, there was a lot of disruption and inconvenience for passengers who were scheduled to depart and those who were scheduled to come in. Because when this happened, we issued a NOTAM, which is a notice to airmen. It is a common industry practice that when you get an emergency of this nature, you communicate to air operators that were scheduled to land or take off from your airport. What happened is we have two runways at Entebbe International Airport. This incident happened on the main runway, 1735, which we mainly use for large commercial carriers. We have a second alternate runway, 1230, but that particular one is a little bit shorter, and it is mainly used for smaller and lighter aircraft. So we continued operations on that alternate runway, mainly for smaller and lighter aircraft, but the big carriers were not able to take off or land from morning till around 5 p.m.
Vian has revealed that as per now, the airport is open and back to normal. He further advised the passengers to get in touch with their airlines to be rescheduled.
Only fully reopened in the morning between 2 and 3 a.m. As I speak now, operations are fully ongoing. Flights are departing and arriving without any interruptions. All the scheduled flights are now able to take place. However, because several flights were scheduled yesterday and did not take place, I can take an example of an airline like Kenya Airways, which has 5 to 6 flights a day. So many of those passengers on the different flights did not travel. So we now request them to get in touch with their airline and work out an arrangement for a schedule. It does not mean that because you did not go yesterday, you are automatically going to go on the first flight today, because some airlines have several flights. So it's important that passengers communicate with their airlines and agree on the reschedule. And we have also encouraged airlines to do that. So they're already communicating to their passengers and agreeing on that schedule. So that
Naomi Mtumba, Smart 24, Prime Edition.
Jerome, can you imagine the consequences that a businessman has to incur to make sure they put you in a way on a waiting waiting list. That is a rescheduling, or reoccurrence to make sure you travel. So what about people who are going to seal deals on that particular day that was a day before, and then you are rescheduled for the next day? This is a very convenience.
Talk about the shock even. The shock you get once the plane goes off the runway. You as a person who's traveling with plane, you see the issue with a plane crashing or a plane getting such scenarios is that these are accidents that rarely happen. But they can stick on you for quite a long time because you are shocked. First of all, you may even forget about your business at that moment because you're still thinking of how you
start imagining what if it was in the I know the what ifs that come. But then
looking at the inconveniences that happen is more so even for example, if you're a business person and you miss a flight, you're going for a business meeting, you miss a flight. A good thing is that these days it's there's a Zoom meeting and all that, but there are some business deals that are supposed to be sealed when you're there in person. But at the end of the day, the inconveniences as a business person is a lot to actually prove that you're making the losses at the end of the day. So these are some of the things that clearly, so for the Uganda Civil Aviation Authority, it comes clear you can never feel the pinch.
And that is definitely on the individual basis. And when we go to the bigger firms here, when we go to the airways, we have got the Uganda Civil Aviation, Uganda Airways, Airlines, we have got the Rwandair. Here it is a two-side effect. Because first of all, you need to understand this is not only affecting, the civil aviation in the country or Uganda Airlines in this particular regard, or neither is it, just affecting only Rwandair, because you realize people in Rwanda, or those who are coming in from Rwanda, who had boarded or who usually get on board with that particular Rwandair are going to be insecure at that moment and be frightened and scared and feel like, okay, there is always going to be a hesitation for some time. Of course, these are temporary situations, but like you said, sometimes they stick on your head for a very long time, but they're temporary. But as the temporary situation they entail, still they affect a lot of businesses. You can imagine people in Rwanda who are going to hesitate at some point, or any person who has been getting on board with Rwandair. They might have a bit of mistrust with their pilots, because this is coming from, public concerns. This is reality. Whereas people here are also criticizing the runway, the activities that have been ongoing with the expansion, because there has been a lot as well critics coming in from the public, and that there is maybe not very favorable. I don't want to use the word poor infrastructure around there, but I can say unfavorable, what people say about this particular incident. So you realize it's a two-way. You can see Rwanda having a pitch here, and as well as Uganda definitely feeling it too.
True. So, and for the Rwanda's aviation sector, also feeling that pitch, there are a lot of questions that they need to first understand. Was the challenge with theirs, or was it with the airport runway? Is it too small, but there are expansion works ongoing at the Entebbe International Airport? Well, the business resumes on a daily, but talk about the emotional shock that you face as a business person, or not even a business person, by anyone who's traveling and you skip death by just a whisker. In some of those situations, cheating death is something that leaves you in shock in most of the cases. Just when you're scared, you may even shy away from boarding planes for a year because you feel like something of that sort may happen.
Especially if you tend, to actually be part of that incident. But also when you look at what is happening, the Uganda Civil Aviation Authority was also returning to normal after Rwandair, had to skip off the runway. But what does this come along with the people operating around the Uganda Civil Aviation Authority? You realize this is coming with a lot of pressure. And you need to be prepared. You can imagine the organization you're working for having such incidences. Of course, there are always people who are going to feel that pressure that comes along. And then the pressure is transferred towards these earmarking, you know, the runway, the infrastructure that has been ongoing. So you're going to find that either this is coming to the good side, other than the war that we see. Is no anywhere evidence that something...
You finally said it.
Why? Have I been wanting to say it for a long time?
Lubowa. Yeah.
It's coordinating with this kind of infrastructure, because if we're to speak about infrastructure development and pressures that arise come along with them, you can imagine this incidence at some point either comes with good or bad. And the incidence with the Lubowa is still, you know, developing. It's a developing story. We want to detail it for you, what could really have caused out those particular incidences and delay, even when we visibly don't see the reasons that contractors say. We return from the break with more stories making up headlines in the world of business around the country. This is Smart 24.